morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, here we go again into another year stretching out ahead of us, and I sure hope you can ride along for an hourly roundup of pure Western music and lots of conversations about our way of life in the coming months. Today, Baxter Black will have a look at the resourcefulness of long-time ranching couples.
Still be able to swing sideways from one headlight to the other, open, close any gate I can get up to.
The Rangeland News looks at some factors that will influence cattle markets in the coming year.
Fed cattle prices next year could be slightly higher than this year's average.
In the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, a rancher has an answer for all the sales pitches he gets at the agriculture trade show.
Next it was a calf squeeze, the guy so full of hope. He thought he had a sale, till I said, I use a rope.
And today my guest is the well-known longtime top hand Miles Kingdon, highly respected in the world of working cowboys, and a fine horseman, and he has just published his first book. And I know you'll enjoy some of his insights today.
Halfway down that trail, who shows up but that cow, that little circle that's cow. And I would have never thought she'd have made it that far. From where we'd cut her out was probably, gotta be 45, 50 miles.
And we'll use some of his savvy understanding of horse behavior on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file. And I think you'll really enjoy the music today, starting out with this one that was the Western Music Association's award-winning song as Pure Workin' Cowboy Song of the Year from Donnie Poindexter.
It's up in the morning with sleep in your eyes. It's flapjacks and coffee before the sunrise. It's jingle and saddle right through the day. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay. I wouldn't trade it for silver or gold, or live in the city for treasures untold. Out on the wagon is where I will stay. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay. My slicker's all frazzled, my saddle's all worn. I've been a poor man since the day I was born. I ride for pound with 6 bits a day. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay. But I wouldn't trade it for silver or gold, or live in the city for treasures untold. Out on the wagon is where I will stay. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay. It's hot in the summer, in the winter it's cold. The cattle are rangy, the ponies are old. The chuck wagon's busted, bogged down in the clay. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay. But I wouldn't trade it for silver or gold, or live in the city for treasures untold. Out out on the wagon is where I will stay. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay. Cowboy life, hard work for short pay.
Now, Miles Kingdon has carefully kept the diary of his life as a working cowboy and horseman, and after much encouragement from his wife Possum and many others, he has just published his first book, Beyond the Next Ridge, A Cowboy's Story. And he's here at the Spirit of the West World Headquarters with me today. You know, it's got a lot of gems of insight into horses, and I suspect some people have maybe thought that it's going to be a textbook on horsemanship, which is, you know, what you do is horsemanship. But it's so much more than that. So much more comes through. But the insight into horses, that jumps out at me, along with Rob Dinwoody's wonderful illustrations. But as I started into it, I couldn't put it down, and I loved the story of a team of horses in Saskatchewan in a blizzard, and this team and sleigh were not that far from home. And you talked about how often a horse is going to take you home when you can't see anything. But this particular team, it turns out, was going in a circle. Mm-hmm. And can you go through just a little bit of that story again?
Sure, yeah. Most people will match their teams evenly for that reason, and others. Color being the least of it. A lot of people like to have a well-matched high-stepping set of grays, but the key phrase there is high-stepping. They were evenly matched energy-wise. They traveled the same. They wanted to travel the same. They wanted to travel beside each other. And at a time like that, I guess when he needed to get out and just go find them people, he wasn't too concerned about that. He harnessed up a couple horses, whichever ones he could catch, I suppose, and away he went. And the one horse's energy was a little bigger than the other ones, and he was just traveling along, and he couldn't see, the teamster couldn't see that far ahead. And so much of the time you just trust your horses because you know they both want to get back. And they can get back. You know, horse is an unerring homing instinct. And it just didn't work out for him that time. And very fortunate were they to be able to come onto that straw stack and get huddle a spot in there.
And then when the sun came up, they realized that was his own straw stack, and he was only a half a mile from the house. And because of the way the team pulled, they'd been going in this big circle, and that became obvious when he realized that those tracks are the tracks we made a few minutes ago.
That's right, you know, and he couldn't see them to start with because of the blizzard, of course. But after a while, he did see them, or somebody noticed them, and that's how it worked out. Yeah.
That homing sense of direction, radar that these horses have saved more cowboys from being lost over the years than you could ever write about.
Oh, I don't know how many times Possum has said to me, "Wow, your sense of direction is so good. How did you find your way right back to the trailer or wherever we were through all that?" And a big part of it was the horse knew what was coming.
Well, there's a beautiful story about an old cow and her calf that the Gang Ranch Cowboys came to have a lot of affection for, and we'll start into that when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Miles Kingdon is sitting in with me this week, and we've been talking about the amazing sense of direction that horses have. But I've noticed even if, you haul miles from home somewhere, ride for 5 or 6 hours, long ways away, they know exactly where that trailer is. They'll take you back to that trailer.
They don't need to go past it twice. If they've been up, they come back. It's a lot the same as turning out your cows. If you haul your cows up to the back end of your range, most of the older cows will know how to get back to where the feed grounds are. And it's that spot in their mind that they've got, like the old Circle S cow in that book. She had that spot in her mind where there was someplace she needed to be. And as range creatures, we are all the same. There's that spot we need to be. So, but if you trail your cows out, they've got a far better chance of coming back.
This old Circle S cow, you know, those cowboys at the gang ranch developed quite an affection for this old gal. Just go through the story of where she came from and how she ended up.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many people think that because of the tough life we get hard bitten. And that old cow was part of a herd of cows that they'd bought from Circle S Ranch to build up the cow herd at one time, and there wasn't many of them cows left on the outfit. And she was built pretty close to the ground, and we were gathering up our cattle out of the summer range country, which we had them in the summer range field. We called it a field because it was actually a fence around it, and it was small enough that you could keep your cattle in for breeding season. It was 100,000 acres, and
it's a big field.
Yeah, it's a big field. Yeah, and anyways, we had noticed this cow on the back end on the drag pop up, and she had this calf beside her, and she looked at her calf, and she went, mm. The calf went, mm, and she kept on hobbling along with that hitch in her get along, and we just didn't feel we needed to take her along. She didn't need, and she couldn't keep up anyway, we didn't think. And we cut her back. Interestingly enough, she looked at us, and the look she gave us was, she was annoyed for having been cut out from the rest of the herd. She'd been with the herd all her life, and now we're cutting her back. And it was her choice to go where she wanted to go. It's all she had to do was she was raising the calf for us, but just let her do it the best way she could. She took a trail, and she went hobbled along over top sticks and rocks and across, dragging that foot along, and she popped back into the herd again. And it was funny because she give us that annoyed look one more time, and she ducked into the herd to become part of the herd with her calf.
And that was where she felt that she just had to be. Well, let's continue the story of the Circle S cow right after one of today's top cowboy singers, R.J. Vandegrift.
Well, he could sit a bronc before he learned to walk. He could swear like a vaquero before he knew how to talk. When he steps up in the stirrup, he gets the urge to roam. He's a son of the Lone Star. He's cowboy to the bone. Cowboy to the bone. He can string them strays together, head them up and move them out. In all kinds of weather, that's what he's all about. He can take them up and down the trail and back where they belong. Get along, you little doggies. He's cowboy to the bone. Cowboy to the bone. He can ride a bull in Cheyenne and then drive all night long. He can be there before breakfast and still bring it home. He can jump on a wild one and ride it all day long. He's at home in the saddle. He's cowboy to the bone. Cowboy to the bone. He can ride hill bent for leather, rope and throw a running steer. He can whip his weight in wildcats, shotgun tall boy beers. He can run with the wild bunch or kick it on his own. He's full of life on Saturday night, cowboy to the bone. Cowboy to the bone. He can ride a bull in Cheyenne and drive home all night long. He can be there before breakfast and still bring it home. He can jump on a wild one and ride it all day long. He's at home in the saddle. He's cowboy to the bone. Cowboy to the bone. He's a son of the Lone Star. He's cowboy to the bone.
Well, that little Circle S cow, she was old, kind of crippled up, but boy was she determined. So, Miles, let's pick up the story.
And we ended up, when we rodeered the herd in Home Ranch Valley, we cut out our dries and our crippled cows and bulls, and we left her behind. We found her and cut her back there too. And later on, after our turnout to the mountains was done, the summer rolls by, and we went back to sort our dry cows off, and we found most everything that we'd put in there. The count was right, but yet that one cow was missing. If she'd got out a hole in the fence, if there's a hole in the fence, why wouldn't there be more missing? You know, and this is the thing that's going through our minds. So we of course re-rode the field, and no sir, with no sign of that cow. So we just took it for granted. Maybe she curled up and died, and coyotes got her calf or something. And there we were later on in the fall. As time goes on, you know, summer jobs pass by, colts are started, and dry cows are gone. It's time to bring the cows home from the mountains and wean. And my partner Merv and I went up one Sunday. It was a beautiful day. And them days in October in the fall when you can hear so far away, clear sounds of cow bawling up her calf, you can hear for miles. And it was a long ride from Fosbury Camp up to Big Swamp and then into Big Meadows, and we were hoping to find quite a few more cows because we were pretty short for that first weaning. And we were hoping to get at least 600 cow-calf pairs in to wean the next day. And what do you know, we came up with about 160 pairs and headed down the trail. Merv took his point, and it was giving me a good feeling to know we were going to have enough cows for that next weaning. And halfway down that trail, who shows up but that cow, that little Circle S cow. And I would have never thought she'd have made it that far. From where we'd cut her out was probably, got to be 45, 50 miles. Well, you see, when we cut her back in Home Ranch Valley, she had, in her mind, this place, people got to understand, range critters, cattle, horses, people, they get them spots in their mind. Calving time, you're thinking to yourself about a pretty little meadow with the green grass and a creek flowing through it. And them cows go through that all the time. And we all get to be a lot the same. And she was not going to be denied that piece of ground. And she went up there and she raised her calf for us, and she brought home this nice calf. And that's freedom.
Yeah.
And that's why I called that freedom and dignity.
I love the way you put it here, you know, like I just stopped my horse dead in his tracks for a moment and thought, no, couldn't be. But sure enough, there was no mistaking that bad hip and the way she shuffled along. The Circle S cow, just one of the gems from Beyond the Next Ridge, a cowboy story by Miles Kingdon. And we'll go back through another amazing episode from the book in a little while. Next, it's Baxter Black and the Adventures of George and Ellie, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at George and Ellie. Well, friends, thanks for listening. It'll be no surprise that I've published a beautiful new hardback book called A Commotion in Rhyme. It fits in the bunkhouse, the outhouse, the bookstore, the library, or the cookbook. Unfortunately, it won't fit in a cupcake. Buy two, get one free. A commotion? Oh. Call 800-654-2550 or BaxterBlack.com. Come to think of it, it might fit in a Caesar salad. I saw Ellie and George at the feed store the other day. She was wearing a walking cast on her left leg. She'd broken the dorsal tip off her fibula and pulled some tendons. It was the result of her perverse need to train young horses. She was in pain, and George was despondent. She couldn't drive, he said, so he had to haul her to town every day to do errands. I remarked she was the luckiest woman in the world to have an attentive and thoughtful man like him to wait on her hand and foot. Well, he agreed and had formulated a workout program for her so she wouldn't feel completely useless, another sign of his deep concern for her holistic well-being. He'd been devoting considerable mental energy trying to figure out the easiest way for her to open gates. It seemed that's what she missed the most. Well, I asked him how she got in the truck. Oh, he said he could back up to the loading chute and push her in with a wheelbarrow. He'd throwed a couple bales of straw in the back for her comfort. And getting out? I asked. Oh, easy as backing in the old chicken house and letting her grab one of the low-hanging rafters. He said it worked pretty good the second time, after he'd fixed the crossbeam. Well, I wasn't sure I understood how she managed to open the gate from the pickup bed. Well, he said that was one of the drawbacks. He had to back everywhere he went, and she still had trouble with wire gates. Well, how about some kind of big ramp? I suggested. She could drop it off the end of the tailgate and slide down. Maybe tie a piece of cotton rope to the gooseneck ball and pull herself back up. Well, he'd already thought of that, but it took too long to drag herself around the pickup and back, not to mention the dirt and gravel that collected in her cast. As we speak, he informed me I'm working on a new idea. Jack's welding me a small A-frame with a boom on it. It'll bolt on the front bumper, and we're going to hang an old truck tire by a chain on the boom. She'll be able to swing sideways from one headlight to the other, open, close any gate I can get up to. He'd fixed her up with a pushing pole and a gaff hook. Should work slick as a whistle. He said she can do it all by herself. Have a sense of accomplishment. Yeah, and you won't have to get out of the pickup, I added. Yep, he said, I do what I can to build her self-esteem. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan. Thanks for listening.
How about a weekend pass to the 23rd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 14th to 17th, 2019. Just about the finest lineup of talent we've ever had. Michael Fleming.
On the back roads of Utah near the San Rafael, an old rough stock rider strides through the corral.
Gene Prescott.
Then he'd swing down from the saddle, and he'd take me in his arms.
Tim Huss.
The band's tuning up and they're stocking the bar. Ranchers are coming from near and far.
Special guest Lewis the Big Rig McIver, and so many more. The BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, daytime entertainment, a spectacular art and gear show, workshops on everything from songwriting to saddle making. The best place to get all the information is bcchs.com. And to order tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. And here's a news bulletin concerning the 2019 Kamloops Cowboy Festival just confirmed. The fast-rising star of the cowboy music world, Matt Robertson, will be back. And we started today's show with the WMA Pure Cowboy Song of the Year for 2018. Well, Matt Robertson also had one nominated in that category. Wasn't this one, but it could have been.
Hot coffee is waiting, he's contemplating moving to a country where the mercury don't drop. Looks forward to summer, why he don't leave you wonder. He must love this life or he's too dumb to stop. His spurs they're jingling, his toes they're tingling. Frosty breath rises like warm chimney smoke. He's calving cows on stormy nights, he's been riding since daylight. Trots for the house, but he'd sure like to load. They call it a country where a cowboy is king, where peaceful days ride is easy on your mind. He wonders if he can hold out one more frigid, high, lonesome winter time. He cusses the snow, but he's still gotta go. To shirk any task would be a blow to his pride. But the winters seem colder, each year he grows older, making him as bitter as the wind outside. They call it a country where a cowboy is king, where peaceful days ride is easy on your mind. He wonders if he can hold out one more frigid, high, lonesome winter time. mended, the pain he thought ended, return each season with the coming of the storm. And old flames he had kindled, he once thought long dwindled, return late at night, but no longer are warm. They call it a country where a cowboy is king, and a peaceful day's ride is easy on your mind. He wonders if he can hold out one more frigid high lonesome. Oh, so lonesome, that frigid high lonesome winter time.
The news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says, looking down the trail of 2019 and feeding these bred cows, wondering how the weather will be when they start dropping their calves and how the market will be next fall. Well, U.S. feedlot placements sometimes play a part. And with more, here's Gary Crawford and his first report of the year.
Still, a lot of cattle in feedlots, 11.7 million head as of December 1st, 2% above a year ago, despite only 2 million head being placed into feedlots during November. That's 5% below November last year. This from USDA's report on feedlot activity on Thursday. Why the slowdown in placement activity? USDA livestock analyst Shale Shagam.
I think that there's a lot of grass available. Foragers are looking good in much of the country. The winter wheat crop is in relatively good shape in the southern plains. And, that may be slowing down the pace of placements. We've seen feeder calf prices fall both seasonally and relative to a year ago. And with some fairly significant losses by the feedlot sector, there may not be as much of a desire on the part of some of the feedlots to pay relatively high prices for feeder cattle.
But still demand for beef pretty strong.
It's helping to support cattle prices.
Fed cattle prices next year could be slightly higher than this year's average of $115 a hundredweight. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
The flat Western Canadian feed grain market will continue for the foreseeable future, according to the experts, but there could be slight changes around the holidays and later on this year. The feed grain market has been mostly quiet as corn from the U.S. continues to flow into Feedlot Alley and keep a lid on prices. And according to some analysts, corn has been sitting at about $2.55 per ton Canadian, feed barley at $2.51 per ton, and feed wheat at $2.42 per ton, all for delivery into Lethbridge. Well, a great thing about Christmas season is the chance to do a little visiting with some of our longtime neighbors, and we got to discussing land prices, how they've changed since many of us showed up here, and how we often relate it to how much per acre it costs or it's worth. And, how about $23,834 per acre? That's what the Walt Disney World Company paid for a ranch in Florida that might never be developed for the nearby theme park. Media outlets in Florida are reporting that Walt Disney World Company bought the BK Ranch near the master planned community of Celebration that was founded by Disney in 1994. The Osceola County Ranch is located about 10 miles south of Walt Disney World, and it's zoned for development. A master plan for the ranch states the property for 3,000 homes and 378,000 square feet of commercial and office space. And a ranch in California, formerly owned by John Wayne, has been listed for sale, and it's gathering interest not only for the famous Western actor, but for its potential use as a marijuana farm. John Wayne's former Rancho Pavarale property near Sage has been listed at $8 million by Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage. That's $8 million U.S. In the listing, the property is touted as being a 2,000-acre ranch located in a small agricultural community that's only 10 minutes from wine country. It's about 100 miles southeast of Los Angeles, sitting almost among the mountains and the valleys. The property is valued at $4,000 an acre currently. Now, I just can't help but wonder what the Duke would have to say about the possibility of his former ranch turning into a pot farm. A 14-month-old Angus bull became the highest-priced bull ever sold at public auction last week, fetching $800,000 from two ranchers based in Missouri and Oklahoma. The previous record set just last year was 750,000. The bull SAV Elation 7899 was purchased by Schaff Angus Valley of St. Anthony, North Dakota, and purchased by Square B Ranch and Cattle Company of Warsaw, Missouri, and Bogle Ranch of Langley, Oklahoma. The Schaffs retained a 20% interest in the herd bull. Prices not quite that high, I don't think, at the next regular cattle sale for the BC Livestock Co-op. It's at the Kamloops Yards on January the 8th, and then on January 22nd and on January 29th, the bred cow and bred heifer sale, along with the regular sale. The full schedule is available at bclivestock.bc, that's bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, the first regular cattle sale of 2019 will be Wednesday, January the 9th, and their next horse sale is Saturday, January 22nd. Get all the information at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Okay, now down to the final item. And this is kind of a Bible quiz in a way, you might say. Some interesting questions about the Bible. For example, what do we have that Adam never had? Well, that's easy. It's ancestors. And another one, where was Solomon's temple located? Well, that's easy too, on the side of his head. And what did Adam say the day before Christmas? It's Christmas Eve. And did you know that they actually had cars in the New Testament times? Apparently so. The Bible says the disciples were all of one accord. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up, some of the wisdom of my guest Miles Kingdon on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, and more from beyond the next ridge, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West, coming right up in the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File. Some of the savvy insight of Miles Kingdon on getting along better with your horse, and some big news about our up-and-coming Spirit of the West cruise after this. So what are you doing from August 29th to September 13th, 2019? Well, Billy and I will be hosting our 18th annual Spirit of the West cruise, and here's where we'll be going. We'll fly to Dublin, Ireland. We'll be visiting an Irish thoroughbred breeding farm. We'll be hosted by the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, and then we'll sail to some historic and beautiful places, including Cork, Belfast, then Glasgow and Inverness, Scotland. And we might even get pictures of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And we'll have stops in Paris and London. Now, this is something we've always wanted to do, and we'd love to have you join us. Get all the information at 1-800-530-0131. And check our Spirit of the West cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and our cruise Facebook page. Now here's the big news. Our early booking deadline has been extended until January the 21st. Now, if you book before that date, you'll save about $100 a person, and it will include all of our group amenities. And of course, remember our second cruise reunion coming up Thursday, April 25th at the Westerner in Red Deer, Alberta, and that'll be the day before the Red Deer main event starts. And we'll have the Western Spirit Band there, along with members from our Cruise and Cowboy Band for some great Western music, videos and pictures and memories of our 17 past cruises. And you can RSVP and get all the information on that and on our early booking discount extension by calling 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
At Irvine Tack and Western Wear, you won't find this.
Hey, yo!
But you will find this.
Welcome to Irvin's. How can I help you?
You won't find this.
What size boots you wear there, boy? You got tiny feet.
But you will find this.
Absolutely, we have your size. In fact, I've got the perfect pair for you right here.
The one and only Irvine Tack and Western Wear, something for everyone. Cowboys and cowgirls to city folks too. It's Western Wear with a welcome twist. Off exit 305 on Highway 2 by Crossfield. Open 7 days a week.
Canada's largest Western store.
There's a lot of savvy insight into horses, horsemanship, and horse behavior in Miles Kingdon's book. And here are a few quotes that I think are right on. Like this one: "Fixing a horse? But is it really? Each time I come into a relationship between man and beast, I think less and less about myself or anyone else fixing a critter. It's something akin to that, but when applied to relationships, it should have a lighter tone, a different shade, maybe adjusting the approach. Each of these situations requires a quiet time, a time for remembering, or at the very least, a time for listening and searching for the feel." Or this one: "People often tell me that their horse gets really bothered when riding away from other horses. We realize that they are a family animal like many of us, but we must also remember that a horse will be a bit more comfortable leaving the other horses if they like the person they're with and if that person emits an aura of confidence." And here's one more: "If you can learn more about empathy by visiting another person's situation, then why couldn't you do it for a dog, a horse, or even a cow?" And this one with a pretty broad application, and I've seen a lot of trainers try very hard to bend a horse to their will and make him be what they want him to be, not what the horse might have a natural ability for that doesn't necessarily fit the trainer's program. Miles says, "I've found that most times dogs, horses, and men or women will do a job better for you if you understand them well enough to know how they like or need to work, and then let them do it their way." And for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Something that I know works well for our horses is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration, and you can find all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. How about a weekend pass to the 23rd Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 14th to 17th, 2019. Just about the finest lineup of talent we've ever had. Michael Fleming.
On the back roads of Utah near the San Rafael, an old rough stock rider strides to the corral.
Gene Prescott.
Then he'd swing down from the saddle, and he'd take me in his arms.
Tim Huss.
The band's tuning up, and they're stocking the bar. Ranchers are coming from near and far.
Special guest, Lewis the Big Rig McIver, and so many more. The BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, daytime entertainment, a spectacular art and gear show, workshops on everything from songwriting to saddle making. The best place to get all the information is bcchs.com. And to order tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. Miles Kingdon will talk about another item in his new book after this. We had a little Christmas gathering with a few friends and neighbors before Christmas, and there were folks that we'd ridden with a lot over the years, and folks that in this area might know Russ Drager. He shot a lot of horses over the years and did lots of cowboying for the McLennan Ranch. And we exchanged cards and greetings, and there was a CD in the envelope that Russ and Carol gave us, a collection of songs that he'd written and recently recorded. So we stuck it in the CD player in our pickup. Yeah, our pickup still has a CD player, and listened to it on the way home, and I thought, wow, I think our listeners would really enjoy this one.
Now the winter is pretty well gone. Calves will be dropping soon. The weather, she's looking good. I'll be riding daylight till noon. Looking for cows in trouble, chasing coyotes out on the double. My old horses, my old dogs, and this old cowboy. The calves have all hit the ground, and it looks like they're doing fine. Time Get out of the way, dog. Well, the spring works are all done. Cows and calves are all looking fine. Time to move 'em out to the summer rain. Suppose we'll ride there one more time. Move the cows to water and feed. Make some fences, whatever they need. My old horses, my old dogs, and this old cowboy. Sure hope the grass is growing good and the bugs don't get too bad. Will the water holes all be full? It's a long dry spell we've had for old horses, old dogs, and old cowboys. Ride the range all summer long till the leaves begin to fall. When we get 'em back to the home plate, I'll hang my saddle on the wall. 'Cause we're too old and too sore. We won't get it done no more. My old horses, my old dogs, and this old cowboy. Old horses, old dogs, and old cowboy.
Miles Kingdon, longtime working cowboy, cow boss, and now successful horse clinician and an author, is sitting here sharing coffee today, and we're talking about his new book, Beyond the Next Ridge. And in the introduction, Miles, you recall Reflections of a Cowboy's Life Horseback, and you talk about the cow that comes into the creek and drinks her fill and then stays by the creek until a bit of time passes before she rejoins the herd. Now, can you just elaborate on those thoughts?
I think back to a herd of cows are bred 2-year-olds. You know, this is their last winter together before they're actually mamas. And they have, they're all just hanging out together, whether they're ready to be moms or not, because most of them are like teenagers. They just as soon be hanging around at the post office trying to smoke a cigarette as trying to be a mama. They don't think they're ready for that. They don't know they're ready for that, but the cow will always go with what emotions life gives them. And they'll stand there and they'll listen to that, and they'll listen, and you think to yourself, why wouldn't you go up on the hill and stand in the sun? And when you go down a ride closer, you can hear that stream murmuring and gurgling away and babbling away, and it's a rhythm. And it's the same thing as that to me. When I was riding home, and I liked them jingle bobs on my spurs, and they get ringing away. And I didn't always wear jingle bobs, but your spurs get ringing, and the horse's feet get shuffling, and his ears start bobbing in time to his step. And that's mile after mile after mile after mile through your life.
Yeah.
And it's a rhythm.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think about that cow stand there listening to that, and it was a rhythm.
I know that is the most therapeutic thing I can do. And those of us who are blessed enough to have been able to experience that in large amounts, I think we need that. I know I sure do. It doesn't matter what's going on. If I need to kind of clear my mind or whatever, and if the weather is decent at all, I'll just tell Billy, no, I'm going to be gone for a couple hours. And she knows exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough that my horses are within 15 minutes. I can be saddled up and heading up one of these trails. And I was telling Jonathan the other day, he was slaving away, cutting firewood and trying to get his new place all fixed up. And I come riding through his yard. And he, oh, man, I wish I was doing that. And he says, you ride a lot, don't you? I said, at the age I'm at, I just savor this. I said, I get out there and I see different tracks. Every day that trail is different than it was the day before. And I'm out there just me and my horse, and for several hours. And I said, that is the most therapeutic thing I can do. I said, I'm at the stage now where whether there's cows to move or not, I'm into that whole. I mean, I'm getting carried away here, but you know what I.
No, that's right. You're with your horse and you're going someplace.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
this right. You're on this energy going through life.
Yeah, and you have that shared harmony with your horse. And
that's right.
Well, we've only probed a little ways into the depth of this fine book, and we're going to bring you more in the weeks to come. Our classic Song of the West is next, along with the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Now, if you'd like to buy Miles Kingdon's new book, Beyond the Next Ridge, well, it's available in Chilliwack, B.C., at C.J. Brooks Saddlery, in Vernon at the Cowboy's Choice, in Kamloops at the Horse Barn, in Merritt at Miss Vicky's Purity Feed, in the Bailey House, and Miles and Possum are getting it around to more places as we speak. You can also email Possum at kposs77@gmail.com to have one shipped. Now about this week's classic Song of the West. There are many songs with the same or similar title as this one, The Night Herding Song. So many of them came from the early trail driving days with no corrals to hold the herd overnight. Cowboys on their good solid night horses circled the herd till morning. And they didn't always sing songs about cattle, but when they did, they were songs like this one from Ranger Doug Green of Riders in the Sky.
Lie still, little dogies, lie still. The moon's climbing over the hill. Don't you get restless, you've eaten your fill. Lie still, little dogies, lie still. The trail has been steady and slow, a-winding from old Mexico. The moon bathes the plains in its silvery glow. Lie low, little dogies, lie low. Oh, 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 up this drive-in Cheyenne and celebrate with our pay every man. Then we'll take what's left on back home if we can. But for now, little dogies, lie still. Oh, oh, catch me some sleep until dawn. But till then it's just me and my night riding song. Lie still, little dogies, lie still. Oh,
a guy who raises good horses, good cattle, and writes good cowboy poetry, Gerald Miller.
I got a son-in-law that likes great big fancy equipment, and he was visiting one year and talked me into going into the big agri-trade show. Now, I don't have all that much equipment, and What I've got, sometimes I wished I didn't have. You see, heavy metal doesn't impress me a whole bunch, and when we got home from the trade fair, I sat down and wrote the Agri-Trade Blues. I went into Agri-Trade to see what I could see. I'd say hello to old friends and view the machinery. A fella showed me a new quad in hopes I'd buy, of course, but he lost interest quickly when I said I got a horse. Next it was a calf squeeze, the guy so full of hope. He thought he had a sail, till I said I use a rope. One thing that did impress me was an automatic gate. I wouldn't have to sit and ponder if my good wife got there late. The heavy metal was so pretty, with paint so bright and new, all colors of the rainbow, red, green, white, and blue. Now some reached out to touch it in a reverent sort of way. Their eyes grew kind of misty as their wives led them away. I was looking at a combine when I heard some cowboy say, if you cleaned out all the insides, it'd hold a lot of hay. The tractors reached up to the sky, they were so big and grand, but if I was to buy one, I'd have to sell some land. You could seed, spray, and harvest in half the time, they said, but it seemed a darned expensive way just to get a loaf of bread. Did you find what you needed? My answer made 'em choke. If I bought all you thought I needed, well, by summer I'd be broke.
Good one, Gerald, and it kind of reminds me of a quote we heard on our recently concluded Spirit of the West cruise from cattleman Ron Hansen. We were talking about livestock and machinery, and Ron was saying, well, if it doesn't bleed, I can't fix it, like so many of us. Anyway, thanks so much for riding along, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. Thanks again to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan, and if you need tractor parts, any kind, any make, any year, see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. And I am sure looking forward to being part of the 19th annual 100 Mile House Cowboy concert at the Martin Exeter Hall in 100 Mile House, BC. That'll be on February the 16th, along with Tim Huss and Jason Roshinsky. We have two shows, 2 o'clock and 7 p.m. For tickets, you can call 1-888-763-2221. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.